What's up, bitches? Ladies and gentlemen, so yeah, today's video is not going to be FIFA. 2 days ago, well, yesterday and the day before, there was some crazy news, and I want to talk about it. First thing I want to talk about is, of course, Jurgen Klopp, and the fact that after this season he is going to be leaving Borussia Dortmund. Okay, now this is a really big thing. It would have been bigger last year, but it's still a big thing because you're talking about a very talented young coach who, honestly, it's looking like he's probably going to make his way to the Premier League now. Man City looks like his likely destination, although some people saying Arsenal and whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who has plenty of talent as a coach, and now that he may get his chance with a bigger club that has more money and everything, you know, we'll see what he can do. But what I really want to talk about is what has led Klopp to this decision. Why all of a sudden now? He's been there since 2008. His job is definitely secure. He doesn't have to worry about anything. A lot of people are saying that, you know, he's maybe lost a step or two because they're in relegation zone, but that's a crock of shit. They're in the middle of the table now because they've been winning for the last month and a half or so. And what I would say to people is, why don't you go look at the damn league table, jackass? But yeah, so why all of a sudden? Why now? Why now? Well, to be honest with you, I'm actually really shocked he didn't leave after last season. Okay, so let's talk about Klopp's time there. So he arrives in 2008. They were at the lower half of the table when he arrived, and they're financially they couldn't spend on anything. They had just a couple years prior were almost bankrupt, and had it not been for Bayern Munich, they would have been bankrupt. They would have had to have gone down to the third division automatically, because once you file bankruptcy, you have to go down. There's no way around it. But yeah, so Bayern comes in, gives them money, saves them, and now they're on their way up, but they're still not, you know, they don't have money to spend on big players, so they bring in Klopp. 2008, Klopp comes in. His first season, they're fifth in the table. Fifth in the table, and he's bringing in players as well. He's recruiting, and he's getting cheap players who actually turn out to be really great. Lewandowski being number one, huh? And yeah, second season, 5th place. Third season, I think 5th or 6th place as well. Or no, second season. First season, 5th or 6th place. Second season, 5th or 6th place. And then the third season, he wins the Bundesliga. He wins the Bundesliga at a fraction of the budget of the Wolfsburg and the Bayern Munich, even Schalke and Bayer Leverkusen. All these teams have way bigger budgets than them at this time. So, but yeah, he wins the Bundesliga. They're in the Champions League, and it's all, you know, great. He wins Manager of the Year, and so, you know, they're on the up. He's produced. He's shown that he knows how to get players at the cheap and turn them into great players who can win. And yeah, then of course the following year, that's whenever things really start kicking in gear. And you know, they win for the very first time in their club's history. They win the double. You know, they win the double. And in Germany, that's a big deal. Maybe not so much the last 2 years because Bayern Munich, but you know, it's still a big deal, especially if you're not Bayern Munich. And of course, that was the time whenever Goethe was still there, and you know, that he had the team clicking. It was on the rise. And then in 2013, and you know, he was more focused on the Champions League. He wanted to go for that competition, so he made it all the way to the final. Of course, they lost to Bayern Munich of all teams, but that's the way it was. And yeah, and then last year they did decent. They qualified for the Champions League. They didn't win anything, but they qualified. But yeah, I think the biggest knock that has led Klopp to wanting to leave is Dortmund, the club, refused, in my opinion, to do things to keep the players there, keep the talent that Klopp had made. So after 2011, the player of the year in the Bundesliga was Nuri Sahin, right? And of course he was a Dortmund player. And what happens? Boom, he gets sold to Real Madrid. Okay, you don't have to sell him, but you sold him anyway. Real Madrid, bam. The following year, they win the double. What happens? Boom. Shinji Kagawa is sold to Manchester United. Why? Why? He didn't have to leave. You didn't have to sell him. You could have held on to him. Why? Okay, bam. The following year, 2013, Mario Götze signs a pre-contract and leaves on the free to go to Bayern Munich. Why? Why would you let him leave? You could have thrown all kinds of money at him. You had been in the Champions League for 2 years in a row. You'd won the Bundesliga 2 years in a row. You have money to spend. And you're talking about one of the up-and-coming players in all of football. Why did you not throw every dollar you had at him? Fine. And then, of course, last year, Robert Lewandowski, one of the best strikers in world football, and you let him walk for free. Really? You have to. Why would you not throw every dollar at him as well? So I can understand where Klopp is coming from, and to be honest with you, if it had been me, I would have left after last year, because it's very clear that Borussia Dortmund has turned into basically a feeder club, not just for Munich, but for all big clubs, And it's a shame because they had a good thing going, and I think this is going to hurt a lot. And yes, they tried to bring in players, but it's just not the same. Klopp worked with those players for a number of years. He built a solid backbone. He had a good thing going, and it was ruined. And yeah, it's a shame that it came to this, but I understand where Klopp is coming from. I understand that it feels like it's his time because, you know, if you see how Klopp is during the games, if you try to study him, so to speak, you will see that he is the kind of guy who he's just ultra competitive, like any good coach should be. And how can you keep that motivation to be ultra competitive whenever all your best players are leaving every single year? It's ridiculous. So yeah, for me, I think this is a good move for Klopp. He needs to go to a club that's not a selling club. And yeah, if he does go to Man City, I think he'll be a big success. If he goes to Arsenal, I think he'll be a big success. Just as long as it's not a selling club, I think it will be a big success.
Later.
And the second piece of information comes from the Champions League the other night against Atletico Madrid and, of course, Real Madrid. The Madrid derby. It's always a huge fixture, and the fact that Atletico has really been sticking it to Real for the last 2 years or so, it just creates a good setting for this game. And, of course, it's a rematch of the final. So, the Champions League final of last year, that is. But yeah, the big incident that I want to talk about is obviously something that's a little personal to me because, you know, I got to meet the guy. Dani Carvajal, in a lot of news outlets, is being described as a biter. And they're saying that he bit Mario Mandzukic, and then, of course, he continued to punch at him. What I really want to do is I want to look at the video, and I'm just going to keep it running while I start talking, okay? So the video will be right here. Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? Yes. So, yeah. You can watch it and see it in many different ways. A lot of people are saying that, you know, when the hand got raised, he continued to go through and bite, and then, of course, comes the punch. Okay, well, first of all, you can look at it from a lot of different angles, but I'm sorry. What it looks like to me, and this could be, of course, me being biased. I mean, that can happen. But what it looks like to me is Dani Carvajal it's a free kick, or it's a set piece situation. They're jostling, they're fighting, and then comes the hand that actually goes into Carvajal's face. Now, whether that hit his teeth or whatever, I'm sorry, but I think that this was more of it looks more like a smack to me, which leads into him taking a swing at him. Like I said, they're jostling and fighting, and this is typical in football. This is normal as far as a set piece situation. They're fighting, they're pulling. I mean, if you watch the video, keep watching. You can see that Mandzukic is also yanking and pulling around on Dani Carvajal. So, I mean, I think, you know, as far as the bite goes, I think it's ridiculous. It's absurd is what it is. It's not a bite, it's a fight. Now, as far as the actual punch, I don't know if contact was actually made. It definitely looked like there was some kind of swing involved. But, yeah. If it was actually an intentional punch, of course, I don't support that kind of thing. This is not boxing. This is not the UFC. Of course, I don't support that. But it can also look like more like Dani was sick and tired of having his jersey yanked on, and he was trying to push him off. Now, like I said, you can see it from many different things. If you think it was a punch, then, you know, I don't support that. And if it really was a punch, I don't support that. But if it was just him trying to get him the fuck off of him, then I don't say I necessarily support it looking like a punch, but I mean, you know, that's what happens in set-piece situations. I mean, really. Now, normally you don't see it in La Liga because La Liga is nowhere near as physical as the Premier League, but that is a set-piece situation, and of course that's going to happen. The jostling and the yanking and all that. So yeah, I think that this is a typical media-created circus. I don't think that there was necessarily anything wrong being done. I don't think that this is a Luis Suarez situation. I think that this is just fishing for a problem. So everybody, that is going to do it for today. I want to know what you think of all this. I want to know what you think of Klopp. I want to know what you think of where he'll go. I want to know what you think of the Carvajal situation. Did he bite? Did he not? Did he punch? Did he not? Is there punishment warranted? I want to know these things, so comment down below. Tell me what you think. Hit that like button. Hit that dislike button. Tell me once again why you liked it or why you disliked it in the comments below. And you know what? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. The Olympia Stadion.
A few moments later.
Say, you know, I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.